Hello, hello, welcome. I am opening up the room for Kristina. She's currently in ceremony with one of her kids. But she will be here shortly. Um, my name is Dali Rivera, and I'm one of the admins here in Clubhouse. So I invite you to come on up. We're going to have a discussion about college options for your children because not every child is thrilled about going in college. Oh, here's Kristina. Welcome.
Hello. Sorry, I'm a little late, guys. My high school senior was in an awards banquet, so I had to go be a mom real quick.
Congratulations to your son and to you because that's a reflection of all the hard work that you've been doing as a parent.
Oh, yeah, I guess so. But that one, he's very, very tenacious and self-driven, so he makes my parenting easy, I guess. Well, in that respect, academically, there's other things that are not quite as easy. But isn't that true for all our kids, right?
Yes,
Is that
absolutely.
one
Yeah. Go ahead and do the intro and all, and I'll go ahead and add the keywords here and share the room. Actually, everybody share the room in the hallway and invite some people in. So go ahead, take it away, Christina.
All right. Well, thank you guys for being here today. Today, we're going to be talking about when your child doesn't want to go to college, what are some of the other options? Or maybe, college is a great option, but it's not always the best option for our kids anymore. And we're going to be talking about that today. So I'm really glad that you're here. Because I feel like university has become such like the only path, and that is just not right. It's just not a good thing. And we're going to talk about that. So if you don't know, my name is Kristina Campos. I'm founder of The Impactful Parent. I help parents of school-age children turn their chaos into connection with their adolescent. I do that by online courses and one-on-one coaching, but mainly through this app that I have, which I'll pin up at the top here in a minute. And that app is absolutely free. It's for you to download on Apple or on Google. And what you're going to find inside is a whole bunch of stuff that helps you navigate your parenting, a whole bunch of parent education courses. There's 30-day challenges to make you a better parent. There's you'll see all the things that I have to offer. I house it all inside my app, so you could check that out. I'm a big believer in as your children grow, you have to grow too as a parent, because how we parent one kid does not necessarily mean how we're going to parent the next kid, and even the same kid. So because they change. So I'm always into being a continuous learner, right there along with your child, and just becoming better and better as a parent. So hopefully that's what I do through my app. So I'm glad that everybody is here.
And I'm going to say that I love your app. It's been very helpful. My favorite part so far has been the challenges because I go in there, you give a prompt, like a question to ask your kids, and I get some interesting answers. So thank you so much, Christina. And everybody, if this is the first time you ever hear of me, I am Dali. I'm a parenting coach, and my specialization is on bullying awareness and prevention education to parents, specifically parents of middle school age children, because that's where bullying usually spikes. But I'm excited to have this conversation because I have a military background. I served in the US Army for 10 years. I did a lot of really amazing things that I didn't expect to do. So I'll be sharing a little bit about that later on. So, Cristina, you want to go ahead and kick it off?
Yeah. So, what made me think about this topic when I was trying to decide what to talk about today was that university has become what appears to be the only option after high school. And that's just crap. Okay. I'm just going to say it. It's just crap. There's so many more options. And the reason why that happened is historically speaking, university became really popular, and it was encouraged that in order to have a good job, for example, there are certain professions that absolutely need a university career path to get there, that's the way to go. Well, over time, what that ended up doing to our society is that it ended up raising the cost of university because now everybody wanted to go to university. And then it started the stigma of, hey, if you want to be successful in life, you need to go to university. Again, that's crap. It's not true. But there are still some professions that require a university option. For example, of course, like a doctor, a lawyer, things like that. Like, yes, those are amazing options that maybe university really is the best path for you or your child to take. But okay, there's a whole bunch of other professions out there that universities made majors for so that people will go to university to get that degree so they could get that money. And that really doesn't help your kid get a job at the end of the university after they get their degree. There's not an automatic career path. You just have a degree and then, okay, now what? And again, it was structured that way so that universities made all these new degree programs so that you will send your kid to university and spend that money, but it kind of left a lot of a generation of kids with, okay, now I have a degree, but now what? Because there's no distinct career path, unlike a doctor, like where you know you're going to medical school, and then at the end of that, there's a very obvious profession that you're going to enter. There's so many majors out there where the degree is the dead end, or not a dead end, but just like a an opportunity that you now have to go figure out what are you going to do with your degree instead of having that obvious career path. So what happens is then, because university has gotten increasingly more and more expensive, now it may not even be worth going to university in order to get the job that you want, because the job that you want may not pay what you just spent in all that university money to get that degree. So there's this gap that's happening. And as a parenting coach and as hopefully a leader in the parenting space, I like to just bring awareness to this gap and say, you know what? We need to start shifting our mindset that university is not the only path. There are many other awesome opportunities for growth, for learning, for education, for honing a craft that university simply does not offer and will still allow your child to be a very, very successful adult and potentially earn just as much as anybody else, even going through university, and not have to spend all that money to get that degree. So that's what we'd like to talk about today. University, again, wonderful option. It's really, really great, but there are other things out there. And I'd like to welcome everybody on stage. If you have a question about a particular path, if you have your own insights about that, please let me know. Even like I see Santiago down in the down listening, any even Sandy, I don't know if you have any statistics about how that gap is working for parents, that they save so much and then their kid doesn't end up going to college, or maybe it doesn't validate them getting the degree that they actually got, that I was talking about. So this is very, very common, and I really wanted to bring awareness to this ongoing issue and increasing problem. Does that make sense, Dolly? Am I making myself clear?
Oh yeah, definitely. Because you know what? Sadly, when we don't have financial education in the family, then we don't know how to select the right degree. Like for example, I was talking to one of my mentees a few weeks ago, and she was talking about a certain program at university, and she said, "Oh, the program, and it's something in IT," and she said it is this much money. It was like $20,000 for the degree, right? And her yearly salary, base starting salary, was going to be in the 70s. So if you look at that in terms of money and math, then yeah, that's an amazing price for that degree, right? For 2 years, $20,000. And but a lot of kids don't even think about that. They just think, I want to be this, and then they just don't even look at the full price. They just go for it, and then they spend time in that degree. Sometimes they even extend a year, and then they get a job thinking they're going to make a lot of money, and then it starts not even the price, the base price is not even what they paid for 1 year's worth of that education. I want to welcome Mambato to the stage. I saw your comment about university has become money grabber. I have a lot to say about that, but I'll give you the mic. Go ahead.
Good morning, Dali and Kristina. Thank you so much for having me up on the stage and for holding the space for this topic. I agree totally with what Kristina just said. I may have missed some in a few minutes before earlier, but what I did hear, I absolutely agree. And also, the part that maybe we'll talk about later on is the emotional impact that it has on children, this whole pressure that we put on children to go to university. I mean, universities are full of children, our children who are miserable being there. They just never wanted to be there. They don't even like the programs that they are in. I was one of them anyway. So just to be clear, so I talk from experience that the children are miserable in these programs that they just went into, that they don't like. First of all, they didn't even want to go to university. And even the changing of courses, you find someone, I have friends who they went all the way to PhD level in something and decided that, you know what, I never really wanted to be a mathematician. I'm not, just because my aptitude allows me to understand all of this stuff doesn't mean that I'm passionate for it. And I think sometimes it's because we misdiagnose children as to their skills and whatever. We just think just because they have the aptitude for certain things, then that means necessarily that they have to go into this field when they are not passionate. So your attitude does not aptitude about something does not necessarily mean you have the passion for it. And so yeah, so for me, my angle in this topic will be just the emotional wreckage that this causes for children when we push them to go into university when they don't even want to be there. I'm done talking for now.
Thank you for that contribution. And you're absolutely right that university is full of a whole bunch of kids that are there, but they're very unhappy. They went there because it was just the next step expected of them in life. And I really would like for the culture of America and the mindset of our communities to change that. That there are other options. Thank you for that contribution. Welcome to the stage, Santi.
Hey everyone, good afternoon. Yeah, I love the topic, love the conversation today. Honestly, I've come upon two situations very close to me. One of which was my nephew, who as soon as he graduated high school, went to private school his entire life. Graduated high school, and when he was going off to college, I think one of the and he's we have a very close relationship, I'm more like a friend to him, so I've always been very straight up with him. I used to tell him, hey man, listen, if you're gonna go to college, awesome, cool, good stuff. But make sure you're gonna go to college not to waste your time, because time is one of our valuable asset, and two, you don't want to create a financial burden for you now so early on in life by exploring, quote unquote. Make sure you know what you want to do. He got accepted to a really expensive school as well, so that was, I think, the purpose of my conversation with him. Like, hey, listen, if you're not sure what you want to do, get your liberal arts stuff out of the way. Go to a school that's a little bit cheaper, that nothing's gonna kill you. This way, if you change your mind and you want to go another direction, you could go ahead and do that, and you're not putting yourself in under a lot of school debt very early on. So, and I told him, if college is not for you, dude, his dad and I, we were both in the military once upon a time. I'm like, listen, you've indicated to me that was an idea that you had, either following me or into my branch, or your dad into his branch, whatever it was. But make sure you're not wasting time. If you're not sure, 100% sure, dude, you don't want to just bounce around from school to school. And I told him, you go in now, you're 18 years old, you finish up your first tour, your first contract, your first 4-year obligation. You're still 22 years old. you're done with your contract, you could go into the reserves, whatever it is, and now you have the GI Bill waiting for you, or you could just go to school and get some school some classes out of the way while you're active duty using TA, tuition assistance. This way, you're not burning up your GI Bill once you come out and starting from scratch. So kind of just like putting different options for him. That's what I was essentially doing, and in the spirit of not losing time, not losing money. Didn't listen to me. Went to school, bounced around between two different schools, and at 22 years old, he ended up joining the Navy anyway. He followed his dad into the Navy, and unfortunately, he had just burned up 4 years of his time, and he had student loans. So I'm always a big advocate for, listen, college is not for everyone. Not, and there's nothing wrong with that. I know plumbers, and in my field of my practice, I've worked with plumbers and construction guys, electricians, all these guys who went to trade schools. They work in union jobs here in New York, and they're making more than 200K a year. Some of them, making a really good living for themselves, and they started in the trades right after high school. I have one client who he works for the MTA, and again, this guy, 18 years old, he went into the MTA as an apprentice. He's 20 something years old, late 20s, making well over 250 a year. So it's always about having a conversation with your children. That doesn't take away from the parent from the fact that you might want to prepare your child for or you want to prepare for college life for your child, such as say for college. I always say, listen, if we're not mind readers, we can't guarantee what a kid's gonna do when they get to high school. But at least you're prepared financially, so you could have an option of saying, well, if you don't go to school, at least I have all this money here that I could, make myself the beneficiary. I have options here, as opposed to saying, damn, we don't have anything saved up for school. So, and now your only choice is to join the service or whatever it is, or take out a ridiculous amount of student loan. So I think it's best to prepare and have these conversations with your children. So again, once you're getting there, you're mapping out a really thought out plan that is going to be the road less traveled financially and of course with time. And I'm just speaking.
Thank you, Santi. That's so great. I hope that you stay the whole hour because I feel like there's going to be some topics that we're going to talk about that you'll be able to contribute some experience and some just your expertise in. So, and yes, university is definitely the most expensive option of the options I'm going to be giving everybody today. And I'll start going through that list after we hear from Chris. Chris, welcome to the stage.
Hey, how's everybody doing today? Can you
Doing
hear
good,
me?
Chris.
Hey, yes, my name is Chris. I'm in the real estate business, also wellness business here in Georgia. I didn't go to college myself. At age, my best friend who I grew up with, he went to college, done 4 years at a major college, and I just went to work. And at a very young age, I worked 3 jobs at one time. And his parents, at the age of 29, his parents were very educated people. His daddy was a school teacher and his mother was a school teacher. And they were very educated. And they, at the age of 29, I built a bigger home than they had. They were very jealous of me. They had sent their son off to college. I went to work and I was accomplishing more than their son. Even as of today, my net worth probably is 10 times more than his or more. And what I done, I started reading a lot of self-help books. My son right now is 16. I'm not pushing him to go to school, but I'm teaching him life skills like finance, like how to buy a house, how to buy a car, he's got his own bank account. I'm teaching him how to work. He makes videos for me and I pay him on a weekly basis. I'm teaching him about insurance. I'm teaching him real, and I think that's the downfall of school. They don't teach real life skills that which when you get out in the real world, what you experience. And school, colleges right now is just like any other business. A lot of them are unprofitable. They're not making profits, so they started to go up on the kids coming there, but they're not producing productive people. And like you say, if you're going to be a doctor or engineer or attorney, you have to go to college. You can't be in that field without going to college. Even the NBA, the college league, they came out with a rule a few years ago. They were saying that in order for an agent to represent a guy coming out of college into major league, that the agent had to be college educated. they tried to come up with that rule, and three people, LeBron James and two or three others who didn't have that, they tried to really block them, and they went back to their attorneys and they removed the rule. But they tried to come up with the rule, and that was just what you call an organized organization. A lot of these groups what you call control groups. They want to control what's been going on for so long, and they don't want nothing new to evolve. That's what's wrong with the whole world. And what I teach my son is, no matter what you do in today's world, you got to evolve. Otherwise, your opportunity could be gone, or your occupation could be gone. And just like in 2000, I was reading the Wall Street Journal, it said 2002, all the businesses that advertised during the Super Bowl are out of business today. CompuServe, Radio Shack, Circuit City, Blockbuster. And these people spent $2 million for a 30-second slot at that time during the Super Bowl. And today it's about $5 million. But what you have to teach kids today, no matter what they do, they've got to be changing. And I teach my son that right now, he's 16, is you got to have independent thinking because you're connected with the world. When I grew up, we wasn't connected with the world. It was just local. But now if you're an engineer, you're competing with the world because your company could be on LinkedIn looking at resumes from a person in Ohio. And they bring him in, interview him. Next thing you know, he's got your job. So you have to think different, and that's what's wrong with schools today. Are just as controlled opportunities, and they're unprofitable. They're not making money. Just like any other business, if you don't make money, you go out of business. And the government is stepping in to supply them, but still, are the kids being productive, spending 60,000 for education? And what's so a shame is they'll give someone 100,000 to go to college, but won't give them 100,000 to start a business. Thank you.
Chris, you made so many great points. One of the things that I wanted to touch back on is what you said, that kids are not being taught. And I feel like in the education system in the United States, I don't believe there's ever been a huge focus on those life skills aside from back in the day home ec. Um, but there, like if you think back, there's never been like a real good course on personal finances. Although I'm sure some schools did, but it's not a natural like a nationwide overall like standard, right? And which is why it's so important for parents to teach those life lessons to kids through like volunteer work or like what you're doing, hiring your children, right, and teaching them those life skills and those entrepreneurship skills. The ethic of hard work has definitely changed in my opinion. But I'm gonna stop right there and I'm gonna reset because we have some new people here. So listen, we have 16 people in the room and we've only got two shares. So do us a favor, share this room, use that little arrow sticking out of that box up down below. Share the room, just tell people to join us. And also, please feel free to submit some comments in the chat. If you want to ask a question privately, send it to any one of the mods, Rodrigo, Kristina, or myself using the back channel feature. And yeah, let's get the conversation going. Cristina, the mic is yours.
Thank you. And yes, Chris, I just wanted to say it sounds like you are an impactful parent and that you're doing so many great things with your child. Thank you for coming up and giving those examples because it's truly inspiring. Um, Before I get into my the different things that your child can do, there's a couple of things that I wanted to quickly mention, and that is the feeling of our kids as they graduate from high school if they do not want to go to college, and that feeling of being lost, not knowing what they want. It's greatly in part to the education system eliminating those classes like home ec and shop and things like that, where kids got to discover some hands-on, really trade work kind of skills and to see if they like them or not. And those have all been eliminated. So if there's something that you want to be active in with your schools, it might be to encourage that those kind of classes are offered to students, because it's by eliminating those classes and adding, they did add more great like AP classes and things in most of the high schools, but by eliminating some of those home ec and shop classes, we have now lost a generation of kids that don't know what they want to do because they've never had the opportunity to experience those things. So it's something to advocate in your schools locally. Also, I'm all about people really encouraging their kids to, for, like women to do STEM. And I'm like a huge advocate of that. But one thing to keep in mind is like statistically speaking, boys, um, in general, and it's a very, very general term, I'm gonna be talking very, very general, that boys are interested in things and girls are interested in people. And so that's just a generalization. But what that does is as they go through life and they're trying different things, um, when boys want, like if somebody wants to be an architect, typically that tends to go to a boy because those are things he wants to build something. And boys tend, of course, this is just a generalization, tend to want to be interested in things where, like, let's say a nurse, teachers. Those are professions that girls are tend to really like to be because they're interested in people and interacting with people. And I like to shift that gender gap for both. But that's just kind of how we're wired at the same time. So if you have a daughter who's really interested in STEM and doing things like that, it's going to be awesome that we can break some of these gender gaps, and I really encourage her to go and do those things. But I, in my opinion, because of the way that we're just different as males and females and how our brain is kind of working and how we just like innately have these things about us. In general, that's kind of where the path goes and why we have some of the gender gaps that we do. So just a little tidbit for you there. But let's start talking about the different options and the different options that your kids have. First one is obviously university. The second one is a gap year. And this doesn't mean that your child is going to take a year off of schooling. Okay. That's really a huge misconception about a gap year. Actually, most of these students that attend a gap year will do a gap year program. And those programs are based upon community service. And some programs are far away, they're even in another country. Some programs may be expensive, but you can also find scholarships for gap year programs. And other programs will offer a stipend to get a scholarship money when they complete the program. So they're actually getting somewhat paid by going to a gap year. And universities actually really like kids that go to gap years because they get experimental learning before they come to university. They get to go out there and experience life. So it allows them to come into the university setting with a little bit more knowledge, a little bit more maturity. So if your child doesn't know what they want to be, but they still would really like to consider university, but just don't know what their major is, just like Santi was saying earlier, instead of wasting the money just getting the core classes out of the way, a gap year could be an amazing option to go get some life experience, to go do some community service, to go study abroad for a little while. And then they come back into university with a clarity that they just would not have had they not taken the gap year. And I find this really important, again, for those kids that just feel kind of lost. Um, the gap year can give your child the opportunity to mature, travel, experience new things, and more than anything, find that passion that maybe that they're looking for. And the prices on gap years completely vary. It really, from, like I said, from getting scholarships so it's free to very expensive programs, but it's something to explore and look at. I don't know if anybody on stage has an experience with a gap year, and if you do, if you would flash your mic and let us know how that went. Yeah, Mabato.
Yes, I absolutely have experience with a gap year. My son is now 36 years old. When he finished high school, um, he was still 17. And so I remember him saying, well, mom, you still have to sign everything for me. So I might as well just take a gap year. And I encouraged it. And of course, I had to push through my own impulse, right? Of, oh, no, gap year, or he might not want to go back to school, and all of these fears that we have. And of course, the misguided belief about university. Oh, he has to go to university. And so, and then I found, and then I got to a place that you just mentioned here where I was comfortable with it because I saw the benefits of it. And then I was a big, and I still am, I'm a huge proponent of children or students taking gap years because there's a lot of valuable education and wisdom that can be packed into that year. And because there's just a lot of first year of university right out of high school is often just a waste of money, just a waste of money when the child could be out here living life and gathering life education, because education um, just doesn't begin and end behind a desk. There's a lot of education. I mean, there's a lot of people here who talked about the education that they're giving to their own children. I mean, really, we really do need to shift our thinking about this whole university and shoving children into this system. And I also made a comment in the chat about how universities actually make a lot of money on international students. That is why there's a big focus on international students, because they can charge international students sometimes 3 times more than the tuition that they charge the local students. I mean, I understand all the taxes and all that stuff, but 3 times? Yeah. So these institutions are money makers, man. They're businesses. So we need to be really careful and be really aware of what really is going on with these systems. Thank you. I'm done talking.
Yeah, thank you for that because you're right. And I'm glad that you had some gap year experience that you could speak for. So I appreciate that so much, Mabato. I'd like to welcome Denai to the stage. Hi, Denai. How are you?
Hey, I'm great. How's everybody doing?
We're doing good. Good. Anything in particular you'd like to contribute today?
I would, yes. So I just wanted to put out there that there is I know there's like a hiring frenzy right now for everything. Thank you. Sorry, I'm at Starbucks. I know there's a hiring frenzy for like just about every industry, but one industry that is going insane right now looking for talent is cybersecurity. And with that industry, there's like they don't even care about a degree. What they're looking for is specific certifications, and those certifications cost, between $500 and like $1,200. So, and they take anywhere from a couple of weeks to 6 months to acquire. So what I'm saying with that is that you can get a very lucrative career in tech kicked off without having to, make that financial commitment to go to college, and even if you do go to college and let's say you come out with your bachelor's, you still have to go and pay and get those certifications anyway to even be considered for a job in cybersecurity. So I just wanted to put that out there because I've been talking to a lot of people, in cybersecurity, and there's a huge, huge opportunity right now. That's it. That's all I got. This is Denai, and I'm done speaking.
No, that's perfect because it's a great segue to the next options. And the next options, I'm going to put together the community college and kind of trade school together because most of us know about community college, and community college is the more affordable path to university because you can take your general education courses there at a much nicer price tag and potentially still live at home so that your child won't have living expenses. However, community college also offers an alternative to university with professions that require an associate's degree and not necessarily a bachelor's degree. And a great example of that is somewhat like what Denai was talking about, and maybe an interpreter. There's other 2-year programs that community colleges will offer where you can get a certificate. And along those same lines, trade school is option number 3. And option 3, as mentioned, like community college, they do these trade programs. So it specializes in a particular skill. And they're from like typically about 9 months to 2-year programs where you're going to earn a diploma or a certification, and you're going to really just learn about a very specific trade. Today, most tradesmen are baby boomers who are actually going to be retiring soon. So many jobs are going to be going vacant in the next 10 years. And there's going to be a lot of job security here because there are going to be so many vacant jobs that we're going to need our kids to go to trade school or these community college programs that are just for 2-year certificates to get whatever knowledge they need so they can go and do whatever skill that they really want to excel in. And even universities do offer like certificate programs, which will be very similar. I know that like my local university, they do like a digital marketing degree, which is just like a quick 2-year program that you could just go and do that. And so there are these options. It does not have to be a 4-year program. And there's assumption that people don't make as much money if they go into trade professions. And that is just simply wrong. Just wrong, guys. Certain trades make plenty of money, especially if you decide to own your own business. So this is going to be another cost-effective option. Before I continue on to some of the other options that your child can go into, if I would like to welcome Jason to the stage, and if anybody else would like to comment on any of those community college or trade school um, uh, options, let us know your experience with that and if you have any comments. Go ahead, Jason.
Oh, I was just gonna say, my future stepson, he's going into an electrician's trade school, and he's been pressured by his dad to go to college, get your general ed out of the way. I don't want to on something I'm not benefit from right away. I need to
Jason,
decide for
not
myself,
Matrix.
and I just told him, "Oh no, not the Matrix." Can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me
I
now?
can hear it now.
Oh man. Okay, I was just saying that he
I lost Jason again. Did you guys?
Yeah,
figured
I
out, and their parents are pressuring them so much to where it's causing anxiety. So, if you're not going to college to develop your profession or trade, then you're wasting your time. There are other things. One is the military. There's like for in California, you can go to California Conservation Corps. You can learn skills and figure it out. A lot of times parents have a problem with letting their kids go, because they're not ready to let them go to being adults. They want them to stay home, stay safe. But you may be handicapping them longer and not letting them decide about how to survive in life. A lot of us, we did leave home. I joined the Navy right out of high school. I learned more about life because I did that. But it's not always suggestible. It's just depending on the kid, in my opinion.
Yeah, valid points there, Jason. And Rodrigo, go ahead.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks are here are really advocating for giving their kids agency, and it's something that I'm always talking about, right? I apologize for the background noise. I'm on a bus right now on a book caravan to Austin, but I wanted to chime in because it is really important to allow our kids to make those decisions. When they have agency, and we allow them to make these choices, they have ownership over that choice. I remember growing up myself. I went to University of Houston, and my first 2 years were pre-med. I didn't want to be a doctor, but that's what the expectation was. That's what I was supposed to do. And really all it did was just set me back. It was more of a setback more than anything. And I think when we allow our kids to make those choices, to inform and let them have ownership in that choice, they're more likely to go through with it because they feel like, hey, I'm invested in this. I made the choice. Went ahead and chose this. I think, and then the second point that I wanted to make briefly is that when we pressure our kids to go to college, when they don't go to college or they go to college and they fail, it sets them up for some really crazy pressure that maybe they're not really ready for. I've made it very clear to both of my boys. I have a 21-year-old now and a 17-year-old that I will support them as long as they have a plan. I just want to have a plan. That's it. And so my oldest is at U of H downtown. He's a junior right now. And my youngest doesn't have plans to go to college. He's going to go to technical school. He wants to work on computer drafting and something along those lines, 3D printing. But I told him, as long as you have a plan, man, that's all I want you to do. And I want you to be happy pursuing what you do. instead of finding it out later. Because I think a lot of kids, not all kids, because there are some kids that already know what they want and this and that, but there are a lot of kids out there that maybe they don't know exactly what they want, but we haven't pushed them to pursue their passions. And if we push them to pursue their passions, maybe they can find a way to actually make money off of that passion. It's getting a little loud in here, so I just appreciate the ability to share. I appreciate everybody being here on stage as well and sharing y'all stories. Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Rodrigo. Oh my goodness, so well said. I couldn't have said it better. And I'd like to welcome Dion to the stage. Welcome, Dion.
Hi, everybody. I echo what Kristina and Rodrigo and what Jason have said. I'm a career counselor and I also work with university students. I work at a university and I also sometimes teach at the university. And I agree, college is not for everybody. And sometimes college is not the right next step right after high school. A lot of my non-traditional students that I work with have told me that now that I'm in college, maybe in my later 20s, 30s, even 40s, they're a better student because they weren't ready right after high school to seek a 2-year or 4-year degree. And we have some amazing 2-year colleges here in San Antonio. So I'm in San Antonio, Texas, that have some amazing programs. And I had put in the comments that there's this emergence of boot camp style programs that are about skill building. And it doesn't matter what your background is, as long as you have graduated from high school or have a GED, then you can participate in these boot camp style programs and earn those different certifications, whether it's project management, whether it's in cyber. There's so many different ones. And a lot of the companies, and even though I work at a university that has the #1 cybersecurity program in the nation, a lot of our employers who hire our college educated talent will say, we need these particular certs, and you don't necessarily have to have the degree. The degree in cyber is for if you're going to manage teams on a large scale, and it's the business aspect of cyber. But it's really, they always harp on, it's the certs, the CompTIA certs. It's so many different certifications that they can get without that 4-year degree. So I just want to say thank you for talking about this topic.
Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Dion. And if you have any resources for us too, please make sure you put those in the chat for those parents down there who are looking for options for their kid. I'd appreciate that so much. And now let's go to our next option. Just as a recap, we're talking about other options for your child after college or after high school. And the first one was university. The second one was a gap year and gap year programs. The third one was community college. The fourth was trade schools, all awesome options. And now the next option is the military, which I know some of you have already touched upon. And I'm going to hand this one actually over to Dali, who has been in the military, and she could talk about this.
Thank you. Yeah, so first, the military is not for everyone. I must say that because some people have a hard time not accepting like why somebody would or would not go in, and you cannot force kids to join. I mean, it really should be something that they decide to do for whatever their reasons are. Um, but before they even join the military, it's really important for them to understand that the military is like the rest of the world, right? In sense of like opportunity for employment. If you have somebody who's interested in becoming a chef or becoming a graphic artist in the military, that job does exist. And a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, I remember the first time I realized that the military had a cartoonist and photographers and people that go to the red carpet to cover all the coverage of like the awards and all that. That exists. So, there's many different ways that you can go in. There's something that's called a pathways program, um, and this is also actually available for government jobs. So when you go to usajobs.gov, not only can you find jobs for the federal government there, but you find these pathways programs that kids usually around the age of 17 can look into. And the purpose of that program is to train them kind of like an intern, and they do get paid. And the end goal is to either enlist in the military to do that job or to be hired by a government entity. Um, so that's one option on how to get into the military or go the federal route, you know. But as far as enlisting in the military, you have, of course, the recruiters who are going to not always be very upfront because they have to meet quotas. So when you have a child that's interested in the military, the best thing to do is to talk to somebody who is not a recruiter and who is doing the job that your child is interested in doing. The high schools usually offer the Asvab testing, which is a 5 hour long horrible. I'm not, it's a rigorous test. It's not very fun, but what it does is it analyzes what your strengths are, and based on how high you score, they open up certain amount of jobs. If you go 1 week to the MEP station, the place where you check out, you enlist pretty much, and they give you your options, and they don't have a job available that week, you can come back the following week and see what else they have open, because every single day there's thousands and thousands of people leaving the military. So those jobs become open. And if your child is trying to, say, go into a nursing program, become a doctor, a veterinarian, become a pilot, all of that, you can they can apply to any of the academies. So not the traditional universities, but they can apply to any of the academies, like the Annapolis Navy Academy, or any of the others that exist. And they pretty much get a free education, but they pay that back with, I believe, it's 5 years minimum of military service. They can also just, opt out of the whole college thing and then just go straight from high school into the military as an enlisted person. Um, and usually, what happens is when you don't have a degree of any sort, that you start off getting paid less. So, I mean, there's so much that I can tell you, but the whole scope that I want you to understand is that the military does have many, many different options. It's not just about, because most people think war fighting, infantry, jumping out of planes, or I don't know, like being a drill instructor. But there are people in the military that work at the White House because they're in public relations. There's marketing specialists. There's all sorts of jobs available. So yeah, but I'm open to any questions because I know that it's so general, and the opportunities are there. And most of it, I mean, let me tell you, one thing I did not think about when I joined the military, because I wanted to do something non-traditional for a girl. So I became a mechanic on tanks and heavy wheel vehicles because I wanted adventure and I wanted to do something different. But what I did not think about is, do I want to do this job after I leave the military? And the answer was no. I didn't want to be working hard like that for the rest of my life. So I wish somebody would have told me that. Um, so think about that. Tell your child, do you want to do this for the rest of your life? Because it's a great opportunity. You get paid uh, for doing on the job training. You get free education while you're in the military. You also get tuition assistance to continue your education, or just to begin your college education. And then after you get out, if you invest in the GI Bill program, then you can have money after you leave the military to use it for trade school or for traditional university. And now they even have some entrepreneurship programs that they'll pay for. But that's what I wanted to share. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm done speaking.
Thank you, Dali. And yes, if anybody would like to ask Dali any questions about the military, please raise your hand or go ahead and ask us right now, um, because the
Or me
military
as
is an
well.
awesome. Oh yes, Santi, that's right. You're in the What branch were you in again?
The Coast Guard.
The Coast Guard. Yes. So I don't know if anybody has any questions.
I wanted to know, see, I've been out of the Navy for 25 years, and do they still have the bond program? Because I remember when I enlisted, I did the Montgomery GI Bill, which is a minimum requirement of 4 years of enlistment. So you get that. And then they also offer the bond. You take a portion of your pay and you stick it in bonds. And after those 4 years or 6 years, whatever you want to enlist for, back when I was in, it's tax-free money, but can add to your education. Because I used all my bonds and my Montgomery GI Bill, which was I think about 26,000. I paid off my bachelor's like it was nothing. I had no expenses whatsoever. So I don't know if
So
you guys remember that or not.
the popular one now that they still offer the Montgomery GI Bill, but now the post 9/11 GI Bill is the one that everybody's going for because it's just the way that program works is when you leave active duty, enlist in a school, and they pay the school directly, the semester, and you get the E5 pay. You get paid for whatever E5 will get paid for that zip code. So you'll get the basic allowance for housing, the BH for that zip code that the school's in. So what that means for some people, like for example, New York, right? And it's tax free as well. So for example, here in New York, some zip codes. I remember when I was going through when I did school, I was getting 4,100 a month tax free, and then every semester you get $500 as well, a stipend of $500 for books. So I know that, for example, I had a buddy of mine he was from New London, Connecticut, which is about 2.5 hours, 3 hours north of here, and what he was doing was he figured out that if you wanted to get that GI Bill, you just for that school, you just needed to be attend one physical class a week. So what he did was he went to a school here in New York City, and he was getting the E5BH for the zip code that the school was in, which was here in the city, as opposed to him going to school near his home in New London, which the BH was drastically different. I think it was like $2,600, $2,500. So that's, I mean, he figured out a way to make it work for him, and he would just what he would do is that one day, I think it was like on a Wednesday, he would just grab the Metro North and come down to the city, and he would just get his class out the way for that one week, and the rest of his classes he would do online.
And I just thank you so much, Santi, for sharing that. I know that the post 9/11 GA Bill was created during the Obama administration, specifically to help um, people out who were getting out during the market crash in 06, 7, 8, all those years. And that's why they started the BAH, or the Basic Allowance for Housing, so that they didn't have to stress out about having a job and going to school at the same time. So that's why they started that program, giving the money so that they didn't have to worry, about survival. And I also want to reference some of the comments in the chat. Let's see. Dion shared a resource in case you haven't seen it. It is 1tonline.org. And she also mentioned that Texas has the Hazelwood Act, and it helps pay for school if somebody's enlisted in Texas. And also, Jason, thank you for sharing the disabled veteran program. Chapter 11 helps pay for their children's college or university. And if your child is already a veteran and they sustained any type of injuries and they have submitted a claim through the Veterans Affairs Healthcare Administration, um, it might seem very minor or insignificant, but once they hit a certain disability rating, they get education benefits. And I believe that's 60%. So if your child is serving right now, or if they plan on, or it's really important to understand that whatever happens to them, because it's usually things will happen to their bodies, whether it's ruck marching or just, I don't know, something, um, it's going to affect their bodies. And so please encourage them to submit their claim. A lot of people don't take advantage of that, and that is not just something that is good for them, but it's for their family members, even their spouses sometimes. um, but that's a whole nother conversation. Does anybody have any questions?
Yes, just
Dali, just to kind of with what Jason has stated in the chat about being a disabled veteran, if you have served more than 10 years of active duty, meaning just served, and you transition out. So if you get out and you just have a regular honorable discharge and you've done 10 years of active duty, you could transfer your GI Bill credits to your children. So it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to be. That also applies, yes, if you're disabled, obviously, yes, of course. But if you do 10 years, like I had my a former commanding officer, my former OIC, he sent his school, his I mean his son, he sent his son to college, and transferred over the GI Bill to him, and he split it up between his two kids, 50% for his son, 50% for his daughter. And what that meant is that half of his school, the time that he was there, he was getting paid to go to school, the son, and the school was being paid for by the GI Bill. So just also that's also another great benefit of having that GI Bill that you could also transfer to your loved one after, or spouse or children after 10 years of active duty service.
Okay, can I just jump in?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was thinking, and I don't know if anybody would have the answer to this one. I read somewhere, and also even just me looking, somewhere talking about the demographics that of the military, and it was more, it left me with the question of the political skew or the political bend to the whole system of military, as to who actually is largely going into the military, uh, because of marginalized groups end up being the ones in the military, in a higher percentage. And I know that there's all these other departments, but I don't know. These systems for me, I don't. I just think that there's just so much to it behind the scenes that just forces children into this flow, or this flow of careers and getting into the military because they did not have any other resources. Is it? I think the military just draws on the marginalized more than anything. Anyway, I don't have the statistics to it. I just read this whole thing, and it left a bitter taste in my mouth when I read that. Anyway, just me thinking. Thank you. I'm done.
Well, listen, so I would say that that's a whole nother conversation. That is literally like we could go on for like another hour if we go down that rabbit hole. I would say this that for example, during the height of the Iraqi war, where did they recruit more? Out of marginalized communities that were impacted by the economic effects that were going on at the time as well. So yeah, people honestly in certain communities where there are lack of options, it's either the military or they stay in their small town and do whatever it is. I think it's more of and then of course when you see the officer ranks, these are the guys and gals that go into the military academies. Four out of the five military branches, you need a congressional recommendation and just a stellar high school transcript and recommendation letters, and you just need to be an all-star and that congressional recommendation from your local congressman. And the only one who doesn't require that is the Coast Guard, because we are a law enforcement agency as well, so they don't want to have that impartiality of of conflict of interest. So that's the only one that doesn't require. But you still have to be a stellar student and just have to have a really awesome story. What we've seen, from my point of view, lately, I would say in recent years, is that you're seeing more of minorities and women climbing up the ranks. During Veterans Day, I mean, I believe back in November when we were celebrating Veterans Day, we had the first a buddy of mine. He's Peruvian born, and he became the first Master Chief and officer in command of a military installation in the Coast Guard. So um, again, we're about to have the President Biden he just nominated the first commandant, female commandant. So we're having more and more and more representation in the upper ranks. I think it's just a matter of retention, that before we were retaining our minorities, our women in the service as we should have, but it is changing. It is going to another direction where you're going to see more diversity, not only amongst the enlisted, or quote unquote boots on the ground, but you're going to see it more in the upper echelons of the command system that we have in our military. And if it's service by service, service by service. So there's five different services. They all operate individually, and they all have, yes, we all operate under UCMJ. Um, but again, there's just different I would say ascension steps to go, climbing up the ranks. So it is going in the right direction, I must say. Dali, what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, this I'm so glad that you brought this up, Mubato, because there are a lot of stigmas and misconceptions about the intention of the military reaching out to minority groups. I did a lot of research when I was in grad school in regards to this specific topic, and what I found is that the majority of, even now, actually, recent studies show that the majority of enlistees are Caucasian white people. And then minorities, especially Latinas, the women, are enlisted at much higher rates than other demographic. However, they're the ones that do not retire. And part of that is because of cultural expectations like motherhood, being home, prioritizing family first, and also because there is systemic racism and other like things like misogyny and concerns for safety and things like that. Not that it's the main reason, but I think that the military is working really hard on changing that. Like Santiago just mentioned, there are people who are coming up the road. They're breaking the ceiling, like, right? There's boundaries that they have crossed now, and they're really focused on this. And what has helped with this is having this discussion, especially when you with legislators, and the news, and just to give you a perspective, because I know that there's such a negative view of like, why are they targeting just minorities? I had the honor of being a drill sergeant, and what that meant is that um, I was training all the new enlistees into the military. And one huge eye opener that helped me understand why it is, in a way, a good thing that the military targets minorities is because this is a step up to improve their lives. There were so many youths, so many young kids that were enlisting who were trying to run away from poverty, that didn't want to get involved in gangs because that was the only thing that was available to them to survive, right? There were also youths who just wanted to do better for their lives, for their partners, like young parents. So I had the honor and the privilege to be able to be part of that solution for them and guide them the right direction. And I also made sure that I focused on mentoring them as best as possible so that they could succeed. And I feel like the military is really focusing on this. So if you do have a child that's considering something like that, I think it's important to make sure that you have that discussion with them to say, hey, you're okay, you're going to enlist, but look, you have to be intentional with who you're going to follow, because everybody follows somebody, right? Everybody looks up to somebody, and this is not just in the military, everywhere. So if your child goes off to the military, please still stay in touch and ask, what's going on, who's helping you, is there a mentor available, because it can be such an amazing tool. Like, I'm one of those kids who came up, look, the oldest of six from a single mother, immigrant, didn't have a lot of opportunities. I actually joined the military because I knew there was no college money, and I didn't even know that there was something called financial aid. And it became the greatest thing that I could have done for my life. And if I could do it all over again, I would. Yeah, it was tough. I did experience sexual harassment, ageism, racial discrimination, but guess what? I still experience that today as a civilian. And it's all about how you take the ropes, and you got to make it work for you instead of having the military, guide you or like control you. So that's my take on it.
Thank you, Dali, and thank you, Santiago, for your feedback. Thank you.
Christina, you're in the matrix.
You're in the Matrix, Everybody's been in the
Oh,
Matrix lately.
Yeah, you're still in the matrix.
Yep, still in that Matrix.
That really sucks. Let me check the while she moves around. Maybe she can get a better signal. Well, I just want to thank everybody for contributing. We've had such a good discussion, and there's so much more that we can share, because even if you do take one of these pathways, right, that your child say they go to university, or they go to the military, or they start a business. There's so many different ways of doing it, but overall, we all know that. Success is not based off of the school you go to, or the entrepreneurship program, or the business that you open. It's really about how strategic you are and how hard you work at it. And there's no one way to success. Laura, welcome to the stage. Do you have anything to add before we wrap it up?
Hello, Dali. Yes, I'm absolutely loving this conversation. And even though I followed the, um, I guess, Pat stated, high school, college, grad school, um, I do believe that if I were to go back and had the choice of, taking my time to explore different areas, um, I would have probably enjoyed my path a lot more. And that's what I try to do later with my siblings. You know, my parents, they were like very strict about us all going to college and getting um, higher education degree. Um, but in the sense, I had a professor who, like, once in college and once in studying chemistry and physics and all of that, this professor was like, I'm not here to like teach you physics, right? Like, this is not really my main goal. But also, the main goal of you being here in college is for you to have that maturity. Like, probably once you're done with high school, I feel like we are still pretty young to make such important decisions. And what I guess at least general education provides you is with that, like the time to think about what you want to do, um, at the same time that you're still learning something. And I like all the other options that you all suggested. I even now at the universities, obviously in Mexico, the system is very different and the opportunities are different. But here in the US, what I've learned is yes, I think community colleges are a really good option. Even if they already decide, even if someone already decided they want to go to college, I feel that going to a community college is um, the best way to do it because you'll probably get a like better education because it's more targeted. Groups are smaller. Tuition, like it's not that of a university. I'm at USC right now, and well, I think tuition is like over 30,000 per semester. But I'm like, if you are going to get the same education, well, the same classes, right? But better quality education at a community college, like just do it. Just go there first, and then you can transfer. And then obviously there are a lot of scholarships that you can apply to, and that's actually what, well, you some of you know currently. I'm looking into doing for or providing these resources for students. So thank you for this conversation. I think it's very important to talk about it, especially when traditional pathways are not the only pathway that you can follow.
Thank you for that. I appreciate you being here and supporting us and contributing. Um, there is a few other pathways that I want to mention very quickly before we wrap up our room because we're already at 15 after the hour. But aside from the topics that we've already talked about, and if you haven't started from the beginning, I encourage you to listen to the replay. We've talked about university, of course, the gap year option. We've talked about community college. We've talked about military. We've talked about trade school. We've talked, no, I think that's about it. And now we're going to go to the next option would be to get your child a business coach. And a lot of entrepreneurial paths just have to go to business school. It's not necessarily somewhere you actually have to go to get a business. I never went to business school and I opened and started my own business also. And you can just get a business mentor and go into a business mastermind. And with this option, the student would be coupled with a professional that could hold their hand while creating their own business rather than going to school. It'll cost them a lot less money, and you'll have more money to invest in the business actually itself, which is awesome, right? And this is not for every young person, but it is another option out there that I do want to mention. And then there's one last option I want to give you guys today, and that is an apprenticeship. And there are actually a lot of apprenticeships out there. You can go to apprenticeship.gov and you can find them. That's actually a website that I highly recommend, apprenticeship.gov. And instead of going to school and paying to somebody to learn, you actually get paid while you learn on the job. This is a great option for a lot of kids. You'll start making usually they start at 50% salary, which then will increase as they go through their learning experience. And although some of the apprenticeships are a lot like the trade schools, you can end up making so much money through apprenticeships, and then you're going to come out of that with zero educational costs. So another great option. So just to recap, because I just want to make sure everybody's got what we said today. So many great options after high school. University being the most expensive option, and really great if they're going to do a specific career path and you know what they want to be. So university is that great option if they want to be that doctor, that lawyer, and there's a profession waiting for them after their major. That's how you can kind of tell that university is the great option for you. If you're going to go into university, what's that major, and does it lay into the automatic profession? For example, teaching. Yeah, you go to teaching school, and then after that you're going to become a teacher. Doctor, you're going to become a doctor. So that's a great option. But if you do not know what you want to do, the gap year is the second option. It's a great way to getting experience for your child, get them exploring, studying abroad. Then we went to the community college option, which is much more affordable. A lot along those lines, the trade school, which is going to get them trained in a specific skill. You can work with a business coach to help you start a business without occurring a lot of that extra cost of education by working with a business coach. You can go into the military, which is going to open a slew of other options for you and your child so that they can be successful, and teach them so many great life skills. And then there's the apprenticeship option. I think I mentioned them all now. And before we close, any last questions or comments or anything like that? I'd just like to hear. That's what I had for you guys today. What do you guys think about those options?
Hey, this is Chris. I would like to say something. Everything you're saying is great. And I think even teaching child, I think one of you mentioned about being tough, mentally tough, teaching a child the mental strength, because even though they experience something that's not right, they're probably going to always experience that. And with the mental health thing going on so much in the world, it's teaching child, how life is not going to be easy all the time. There's going to be road bumps. There's going to be bad people, and teaching them how the real world really works. And then also, a lot of businesses like McDonald's, a lot of these companies are struggling to get young people. When I was 19 years old, I was happy to get a job at minimum wage to get started. But a lot of these a lot of these companies are struggling, and they're raising their salary to try to get good, competent young kids to work. Even I got an attorney that I'm getting ready to do some work for. She's in New Jersey. She's over Amazon here. Amazon just built a new plant here, and she told me the other day that they're even struggling to get people at 17, 20 some dollars an hour. So the work ethic and the view of life has changed with people. And I think even my son, I'm teaching him to be mentally strong. No matter what happened in this world, there's no perfect world. And you have to bounce back and get up and not be really upset. And I think the mental part of life is really important more than ever with these young kids. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Absolutely, Chris. Thank you for that. And going back to what Rodrigo was mentioning earlier, giving your child agency to explore their interests. A lot of times we feel like our kids can be lazy or they're just not very motivated. And a lot of that is that they don't have the encouragement behind them to follow their passion. And but that's our job as parents to encourage our kids and let them explore those options because they want to join a profession that they're going to be um, great and happy in and have that motivation, that intrinsic motivation to do better and improve themselves. And really that comes from within, and it starts that spark, that interest, that whatever they're into. So cultivate that, nurture it, parents, and open your mind to the other options outside of university if that's not where they were planning on going. And I think that's the bottom line here is let's let our kids flourish, and there are other ways. So let's change the mindset of
I really did like the five options, Christina. Thank you so much. I even learned a lot myself. And what you just said here about sometimes we think our children are just lazy or whatever, and sometimes it could just be that they just don't. They're not. We're not. We didn't put the flame in them in maybe recognizing their talents and nurturing that. So I like that. But the biggest point that I'm walking away with that I liked very much in your list is the coach, the fifth one, the hiring, getting a business coach to help a child get into business and have someone holding their hand. I really really like that, because that really would cut through a whole lot of time and money if that's where the child wants to be. Thank you so much, Christina and Dali and Rodrigo and everybody on the stage. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. One more time, just if you want more from us, we're here every Friday, 12 Eastern. Next week, we're going to be talking about how to have really tough conversations with your kids, about sex, about drugs, anything like that. Like that's just really hard to talk about sometimes as parents. We're going to just hit that ground running and give you some tips on how do we have those conversations with our kids. So that's next week, 12 p.m. Eastern, right under here in the Amigos Club. Join us, and make sure that you follow the Amigos Club. You can also, we have a Discord. Discord is an app, and Discord, we have our own Discord area where we communicate. So join us there so that you can be updated on all the latest stuff. Thank you to my co-moderators here today. Thank you, Dali, for helping me when I couldn't get into the room right away, and always for Rodrigo for being here. So thank you, guys. I appreciate you both.
You're very welcome, Kristina. And everybody, before we go, I just want to let you know that the Amigos Club is hosting a next room at 1:30, so in about 10 minutes. And the topic is virtual assistants. What you'll have the opportunity to learn what it is that they do, how to vet one, and much more. So join us for that one. And Rodrigo, anything you want to say before you go? I know that you're traveling right now. Go ahead and open up the mic and let us know. He might not be able to speak. That's cool. Well, back to you, Kristina.
All right, guys. If you like this room and would like more of things just like what we learned today, right above my head, that's my app. I would really appreciate it if you checked it out because it's absolutely free. You're only going to gain from it. So if you liked what you heard, it's a free download. Go take that look at that and come join us next week. And we'll be shutting down the room in about five seconds. So thank you so much for being here, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you.